Okay, the X-16 now has 5 coats of clear enamel on it, and like I said, the finish for this guitar is part of the experiments of this experimental build, and I've only used this type of clear coat on one other build, the guitar number 13 with the cracked gold lightning pattern on it. And there it was just 2 quick kind of flash coats, very thin coats, and no real sanding or polishing was done on it. And it was not a mirror smooth finish. Like, this is not sanded or polished or anything, and it's not mirror smooth. And but I was going to try to go for a smoother finish with this, but I've never really tested to see how well this stuff stands up to sanding and polishing. So I've prepared a test piece. This is just a piece of cutoff from one of these bodies, and this has 5 coats of clear enamel on it. And as you can see, it's not, it's got a little bit of signs of like surface air bubbles almost in the top of it. So it's not mirror smooth. But the plan is to use this as a test for sanding and polishing to see if you can get it to sand and polish correctly, whether it builds layers like poly and you have issues with cut through from layer to layer leaving marks, because that's a possibility. It might be that this stuff all kind of blends together like lacquer and you won't get cut through marks. I know that on the Guitar 13 build, I was successfully able to like spot sand down like a run or drip with a coarser grit and then polish out what remained in order to get a finish more or less like what you see here now, which is not bad, but I wanted to see if I could take it to truly mirror kind of smoothness. So that's going to be trying next. So I'm going to start with some 2000 and go coarser if I need to. Well, it's slowly flattening it out, but you can still see the... Let me see if I can get it to do it. Can't even get it to do it, really. Yeah, there you go. The shinier, you can still see where the grain part is shiny at the bottom of the grain. It's kind of hard to see in the camera, but yeah, it's getting flatter, but it's not flat yet. Of course, this was also not grain filled, so you would have to, basically, it would have to all be grain filled with the clear enamel and then have a couple more layers above that, and it would have to all melt together in order to get the desired effect. But so far, so good. I might step down to 1500. That's some pretty tough paint. I'm down to 600 grit. I've been grinding away at it, and it's still not flat, not quite. Uh, any place where you see a little bit shinier is a place where it's still low. And it's got a few sprinkles here and there where it's still low. So maybe I'll try 400 or 320 or something. Well, I'm down to 320, and I think I've sanded through 2 coats of enamel so far, and it's still not quite flat. Almost, but there's still like 1 or 2 spots. So I'm not so sure about this. Fortunately, when you go from one layer to the next, it doesn't seem to leave a mark the way poly does when you sand through a layer. So that's one thing working in my favor. I guess I'll just keep going at this until either I get it flat or I cut through the last layer back to bare wood or enamel soaked wood or something like that, and see if I'm actually able to get it flat. I mean, like here you can see the shiny parts are the parts that are still low, and the duller parts are the parts that are flat. And wish I had a better camera. And it's almost flat in this area here, but there's still like, one there, a couple there. But yeah, actually right through here, it is truly flat. So I guess it can be sanded. But at this point, I probably sanded half of the enamel off in order to get that. So I'll just see how flat I can get all the center section. And then I'll decide whether I want to try to go for true flat on this guitar. And actually, this also is going to apply to the Cowboys guitar build too, because that's also going to get this type of clear coat. So it's kind of important for these 2 builds here. That's the reason why I decided to go for a separate test. Well, it looks like you actually can sand this stuff pretty much flat with like 320 with a fair amount of effort, actually. You probably would want to put an extra couple coats on it, like 6 or 7 at least before you started. I only did 5, and I was probably sanded half of it off before I started getting the center section areas flat. But being mirror flat is just an aesthetic thing. The only thing you really need is for it to be smooth, sufficiently smooth on the back of the neck. And other than that, all you really have to worry about is taking out any kind of a drip or a run, like right there. And that you can just knock down with some 320. And then once you polish it all, everything will look all nice and uniform as far as the sheen goes. It just won't be mirror flat is the only thing. And I think just due to how tough it is to sand through this stuff, I think that's the approach I'm going to take. I'm just going to smooth out the back of the neck a bit, and the rest of it just sand down any runs, and then go to polishing. And I'm not going to shoot for mirror flat, glass flat as a piece of glass, because that's an awful lot of sanding work, it seems, especially to do the whole guitar that way. So, and I would want to do it by hand if I did it because I'd be afraid of cutting through. Because once again, there's only 5 coats on there, so yeah, I think just a little bit of touch up with 320 for any run marks, and then smoothing down the back of the neck a bit, and that's going to do it. And yeah, this stuff is definitely 2 to 3 times as tough as lacquer as far as sanding goes, and it was surprisingly not as high build as I was expecting. And so, yeah, that's the reason why I'm a little skittish about going any deeper on the sanding or any coarser on the grit. But it did start getting the desired effect right in this area here. So it does work if you want to put in the effort. Well, this stuff is about twice as tough as lacquer, at least. So it's going to take twice as much polishing to get the same effect. I'm maybe not even halfway there so far. So yeah, this is going to take a while. I'll be back. Okay, it's starting to look a lot better here. Yeah, all this stuff here was all just knocked down with 320 basically to get it feeling more or less flat. But since it was taking a while to polish, I tried a little 2000 just in this clear wood area here, and then hit it with the polish, and yeah, it polished right up. So yeah, all I need to do is just go over the whole thing with 2000 first, and then go to polish, and it'll be a done deal. Okay, everything's been sanded with 2000. It's still not perfectly mirror flat. As you can see, there's shiny and less shiny parts on it, but it's nice and smooth now, so it'll polish up nicely, even though it still won't be perfectly flat as a piece of glass when it's all done. But that's okay. The only place where it really needs to be nice and smooth is the back of the neck and the heel area, and I spent special time on those to make sure they're extra smooth. And yeah, so it'll polish up nicely now. Overall, the clear enamel, I'd have to say by and large it behaves the same as a lacquer. It's just like 2 or 3 times as tough. It doesn't build a whole lot faster, and yeah, it's tough stuff, man. It's Rust-Oleum. What do you expect? So yeah, I think this is finally ready for some polishing. Okay, it's all polished, and it's time for cleanup. And normally I would use naphtha, but I've decided it's a little bit harsh for lacquer finishes, and I have no idea what it's going to do to enamel. Um, in general, my school of thought these days on cleanup after polish is the gentlest detergent possible, or surfactant possible, and yeah, whatever the weakest, I mean, you can take the stuff off with water, but other things make quicker work of it. Um, I just tried a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and it actually started to dissolve the clear coat a little bit. So I wiped it off right quick, got it to all evaporate. Then I had to come in with 2000 and the polisher again in order to fix that up. But it cleaned up okay. But for this, I think I'm just going to use Windex for the cleanup on the clear coat. So here's that test piece of the clear coat, the enamel, after polishing and cleaning with Windex. And as you can see, you actually can get a mirror smooth kind of thing going on with this stuff. So yeah, you just want to put on probably at least half a dozen coats before you start sanding. And then, yeah, it takes probably 2 to 3 times as much sanding effort to cut through this stuff as it does through like spray lacquer. So, but it works, and that way you can do a clear coat over a paint job or something like that that uses enamels, and you won't get runs. So not too bad. Got a little bit of leakage under the tape here on a couple places on the fretboard, and but really nothing in the way of like clear coat getting up underneath the tape. So that's cool. Got a nice clean line going. Not going to need too much in the way of scraping on the binding for the edge of the fingerboard. That's also cool. For cleaning up on the front, one option would be lacquer thinner, which would do the job. Lacquer thinner and elbow grease, but you have to be careful about getting it onto the finish. And the other option would probably be scraping with a razor blade, and I think I'll try that out first. The one thing about scraping it is that sometimes it can change the appearance of the section you scrape, and then you have to end up scraping the entire fingerboard to restore uniform appearance to it, which is not fun. I used to ending having to do that a lot, and then I learned to not be so anxious to scrape stuff. But in this case, I think I'm going to scrape because I really don't want to do anything to this finish with any kind of chemicals. So mechanical removal of paint. So when you're using the microplane to put this radical V carve on the neck that goes all the way up to the top of the fingerboard, you can have issues with the little blades in here, they'll grab a hold of the side dot and actually rip it out of the hole. Yeah, there's a hole there. There's a hole there. I just went through and found all the ones that accidentally got pulled out and cleaned out the holes with, or what's left of the holes with the scratch awl. But yeah, like this one is like probably a little over a mil deep on the deeper side, so to speak, and under a mil deep on the shallower side, or maybe perhaps a mil deep on the shallower side. But it's not even like 2 millimeters deep all the way around or anything. And yeah, so to try to do something about that, this is your basic little side dot kit that Amazon sells. And it's got like 50 pieces, 25 black and white each, with a 2 mil bit. Yeah, there's the drill bit right there. So yeah, it comes with a 2 mil bit and a whole bunch of side dot material. So I'm gonna see if I can use this. I don't even know if these are 2 mil holes or anything, but I'll figure out what's up. Okay, these do seem to be 2 millimeter side dot holes. So I guess what I'll be doing is taking 2 mil bit and drilling them deeper. You know, maybe 2-3 mil deep, and then use some of the side dot material, put it in there, glue it in, wait for it to dry, then use the fret end nippers in order to clip it off parallel to the surface as best I can, and then come in with a little bit of sandpaper and sand it flush. So it looks like the next thing to do on this thing is knock down the bottom corners on the ends of the frets with a small diamond file. Just gonna go in like that. I gotta tape it off first, but yeah, that's next. So one result of these radical V cars is you can actually see the bottom of the fret tangs here on the side of the fingerboard. You're cutting into them when you shape the fingerboard and the neck, and once you get it down to, like, rolling and things like this, the frets tend to kind of sprout a bit. So I've gotten as far as like the third fret, and it's rounded over, but it does feel a little sprouty, shall we say. So it's time to hit the whole thing up with the angle grinder for the frets, and bevel the frets, get rid of a little bit of. It's got just a little bit of bump going down the side right now, even though it's smooth. But yeah, you don't want it to be too bumpy. So when I beveled these, first I just beveled them straight up and down in order to get the centers for fret sprout. And then I went only about 10 degrees in order to kind of round them over, just ever so slightly. And now I'm going through and using this in order to knock down the corners at the bottom. And then if need be, well, after I do that, I'll roll the edges with sandpaper, and that'll help round over these top edges. And if need be, I can go back after that with a half round crowning file in order to roll over these top edges a bit more if they need it. And that's the basic approach. So that should do it for dressing the fret ends and rolling the fretboard. And now all I have to do is, that last bit was done with 320. So I need to run through the grits up to like about 2,000 or so on these ends to take out scratch marks, and then I can go to the polishing compound and a little buffer wheel on a Dremel in order to polish up the frets. So you mask off the sides of the fretboard before you mask off a fret for polishing. it works better than a fret guard because you don't get polish at the ends, polish residue. And yeah, so this is ready for the Dremel. I don't think I've got a wheel on the end of the Dremel. I think I got a grinding thing, but yeah, there's the Dremel. So yeah, I got a buffing wheel and the autosol and polish it up, and then you peel it off and move your tape over to the next one. But because you got this on the side, you don't get any residue at the ends of the frets, and you get practically zero residue overall from polishing, and it makes cleanup a lot easier. And it works way better than a single fret guard or one of those, like, you know, all-in-one fret guards or anything like that. This is the ultimate way to do it, to protect your fingerboard while you're polishing. So, polishing frets, Dremel, this works better than anything else I've ever seen. It's better than, you know, erasers, it's better than micromesh, it's better than steel wool. Yeah, it's pretty much can't be beat for results. Also, it's easier, frankly. And all you do is mask off the sides, and mask off the fret, and try to be precise. The more precise you are, the less, like, cleanup you have to deal with. Kind of come in like that. So you get it nice and tight up to the edge of the fret. And once again, lean in and stretch the tape just slightly. Not too much or it'll curl on you. You want to keep the tape straight so it seals up right against the fret, and you've got all the steel or nickel silver. Yeah, you've got all the fret exposed and all the wood covered. And then not too much polish. Almost everybody puts too much polish on. You don't really need a lot. That's plenty. And smear it around. And don't worry about getting it on the tape. For best results, you're going to end up getting it on the tape anyway. So then once you got it smeared around, turn on your Dremel. And you would think go this way, but no, for best results, you go this way, because that way you can get on all the way down to the very edges here on the fret. So you go like this, and you'll see it turning the tape black on both above and below the fret as you do it from all the residue in the polish. And you just go back and forth like that a few times, and you'll see it all. You'll see like some polish and residue and stuff along the length of it as you're going back and forth like this. But you go back and forth a few times, and it'll start getting shinier and shinier. And usually about 3 times back and forth across it. Kind of like that. And then you go along the length of the fret, finish up. And that's pretty much it. Shut off your Dremel, peel off your tape. And there's another fret. That's 4 down and 20 to go.